If you've been watching Survival on Purpose for any length of time, you may have figured out that I have somewhat of an obsession with knife throwing knives, stuff like that. And done a lot of videos on how to throw knives, axes, hatchets, different tools being thrown, which ones are good, which ones are not. And one of my goals has always been to kind of find a good knife, a good throwing knife that's actually a knife. You could use it for knife stuff other than just throwing, because many dedicated throwing knives are just pointed hunks of steel, which is fine for throwing, but not so much for knife stuff. Well, today's video, we're going to take a look at these SOG throwing knives, which we'll see, but they have the potential at least to be used as actual knives. They have an edge on them is my point. So we're going to run these things through the standard scientific testing, and including the balance testing on the balance orientation and rotation device here. See how well they work coming up next here on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name's Brian. Thanks for joining me for another Sharp Saturday video, where it's Saturday and we take a look at something sharp. Like I said today, that something sharp is these SOG throwing knives. We're going to take a look at these in just a minute. But first, today's words of wisdom from the Bible. Today's wisdom is from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 19 in the NIV translation. As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. And as we sometimes say here in Georgia, them there's good words, no matter what book they come from. And before we get to these knives, I got to give a big thank you to my friends at Hog Holsters for sponsoring today's video. Hog Holsters is the longest running channel sponsor here at Survival on Purpose. They make the holster I have used for years and years and years. I'm wearing mine today, my Hog Holsters. Every single Hog holster is painstakingly, expertly handcrafted to fit your specific model. No one size fits all. In Arizona, in the USA, using 100% US materials down to the very screws that hold the clip on. Hog Holsters is a veteran-owned company, and Hog Holsters is helping Americans wear guns. And if you go to survivalonpurpose.com/sponsors, there might be a coupon code for you there. So thanks again to Hog Holsters for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get down to the old stump top, get to doing some of that knife stuff. You want to? Okay, here are the knives. And since they're in the sheath, we'll start with the sheath this time, kind of go backwards. As far as throwing knife sheaths go, this is one of those stackable sheaths, and it actually is one of the better ones that I've seen. They fit in here pretty well. They absolutely go in and out. Some of them you can't get the knives in and out, especially when they're all loaded in there. These, they all go in, and they all fit pretty well. And then it has a strap on it. Let's see if it'll go around all of them. Well, it kind of goes around all of them, so not bad. And a nice big belt loop. So when you're practicing, you have a safe way to carry these knives around with you. So I'm just gonna pick one. We got red, white, and blue. I noticed the white, the paracord is coming off. So that's what it is. So anyway, we'll use the red one. But if you'll notice, these things do have an edge on them, and they feel pretty sharp. So that right there is a plus right off the bat, at least potentially a plus. And the shape of these things is knife-like. They have a couple finger guards here, nice regular handle. Looks like these things, if they were made out of a little different steel, they could actually be have a handle put on them and be a real knife. So the overall length of these things is 10 inches, which is about the minimum I like to throw. The blade is 4.4 inches by 1.135 inches thick, and it has a sharpened cutting edge, we'll say. It's a paracord wrapped handle with 52 inches of paracord, so that's could always come in handy. The blade is 420 stainless with a 51 to 53 Rockwell hardness, and it's finished black. The hardness is good. You don't want it too hard to be too brittle. They weigh 5 ounces each, so sort of lightweight. Have nylon combo sheaths, and they are made in China. The MSRP on these is $40. Amazon has them for $34 right now, and when I'm making this video, Midwest USA has them for $11.41. The red, white, and blue handle wraps. SOG's website does not show these wraps, so I got a feeling they maybe just were a special purchase for Midway. You know what? I think I'll just take this off and see how well see if one of them throws better with the handle off, and we'll do that off camera. So, as far as science goes, I want to see how well these things work as a regular, real knife. So first, we'll have to do the internationally standard sharpness test, the redneck sharp test, and see how that works. And we're just going to pick one at random. I picked the red one to use, so we'll see. But here's the sharpness, the testing medium. Let's see if we can get any kind of a, man. Okay, not crazy sharp, but we're gonna give that one at least a B plus because it actually did shave some hair. I'll be honest, I really am surprised. It felt kind of sharp, but that's not something I normally would expect from a knife that's marketed as a throwing knife. So, got to give them credit for that. Now let's see what else we can do. So we got some wood here. Let's see about one of the things I like to always test and kind of use the same process is how well this thing can do some fire prep and fire starting. So we'll start with the old dreaded baton. We're going to beat this thing through a hunk of wood. So let's do that. Trying to get down to the inside where maybe there's something dry that we can look at and get a hold of there and not have, well, of course it feels pretty dry now, but it's been raining here. It rained last night, I think. It's been raining on and off every day for the past few weeks. But let's see. Maybe that'll get us something. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's do a little carving right here. Man, this thing is actually now carving better than almost maybe any other throwing knife I've ever tested. Like dedicated throwing knife, maybe with the exception of one of the cold steels I looked at. I can't remember the name of it, but I had one cold steel that seemed to do okay. Maybe it's a Jack Dagger or something like that. I can't remember. You can look it up. Look up cold steel on the old channel search bar, and it'll get you there. Probably look up throwing knives too. You did know that YouTube has a search feature, right, on the channel. If you're looking for an older video or trying to see if I made a video about a certain topic, you can always just go to the little search button on the channel page and see if it shows up. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not really too disappointed in that. I'm gonna say that's pretty decent there. I mean, we're not trying to build a campfire. We're just trying to test a knife, so that's going to be enough for that. Got the old fat wood out here. Let's see how well this thing scrapes. The back feels like it's got a decent spine. It's not super sharp, but the coating is probably all that's stopping it from being sharp. Let's just see if it'll scrape some fat wood. Ooh, can you smell that? Oh man, smells so good. So not great, but not too shabby, actually. And really all it would take was just maybe even just hitting it with a stone a time or two to wear that coating off, and it'd be sharp enough to scrape pretty well. So I've got my fat wood fire steel here, and it has a scraper on it. We're going to see how well the knife does that. So, and see if it'll scrape some of them there ferro rods. And okay, not great, but it did hit the fat wood, and that's why I love me some fat wood. So the next thing I wanted to check is really like, okay, so it does the knife stuff. Okay, it's considered a throwing knife. Let's see how well do she throw. Okay, so I got the sheath on with 3 knives in it. I did unlash or unwrap the handle on the white one, and you can see pretty good bit of paracord here, so that you have available if you want to keep the handles like that. So throw over there for now. I typically like throwing without the wrap on there, but we'll just see. We got a couple of them here, so we're gonna endeavor to persevere here. And like I've said before, you know we're all about the science here at Survival and Purpose, and to that end we maintain a state-of-the-art cutting-edge knife testing facility at our worldwide headquarters. I always like to test the aerodynamic balance of every fixed blade and every throwing knife on the balance orientation and rotation device there. So these have a little bit larger handle than blade, but they're still going to be, I would imagine, reasonably balanced about right on the where the finger guard is. So that's good. Let's just see how she goes. You want to? Proper scientific methodology is always important. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, that was reasonably pitiful. Let's try it a little better. Boop, boop. A little high, but she's in. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, rebound. Okay, focus, caçapa. A little better. All right, as you can see, the red one is coming unwrapped. So hopefully I can stick 3 of them and we can wrap this thing up before it comes unwrapped. So that was 2, but the blue wrapping is looking kind of sketchy too now. And I thought that was going to be a William Tell moment. Well, I seem to be getting 2 out of 3, so we're just going to try a single. We're going to call this one done. Chuck Norris can build a Lego Millennium Falcon in 5 minutes out of Lincoln logs. Okay, well, there is a little balance testing on the SOG throwing knives. Just kind of give you my pros and cons and final thoughts. So first of all, I think as far as a throwing knife that actually can function as a real knife, these are one of the very top ones I've tested. They actually do have a decent edge from the factory on them. They're hollow ground. I'm pretty sure they're hollow ground, maybe not, but it looks like they're hollow ground to me. Most of the Chinese knives are because it's easier to do a hollow ground. They have a good size handle you can actually use, and they have a pretty good blade design you can actually use for knife stuff, and they're also, from the edge and the point, they're really good for throwing knives because they have a fine point on them. So a lot of throwing knives, they just don't do that. They don't put a lot of emphasis on the front here, on the point, and that's what really makes it stick better, especially when you're trying to learn and you're starting out. You need all the help you can get. So that's good, I think. The sheath is actually the best one I've seen on a throwing knife sheath so far in the last many years I've been doing this. And the wrap, I think the wrap's a good idea. It does give you a little cushion when you're using this thing as a real knife. It gives you some paracord if you need it. Certainly, although this one's coming undone, as was a white one, that's just a factor of the lack of attention at the Chinese factory, I'm sure, to putting this on. They didn't do any kind of bonding, any kind of fusing on them. The ends weren't even fused, which is, paracord 101. So certainly you could take care of that with a little bit of Bic lighter and a little effort, and have these things secure if you want them, but then you still have some paracord. So all in all, and I got to say, I think these are a good set of throwing knives for beginners, for anybody if you want to throw knives, and they have the added benefit of being an actual knife. So if you got stuck in a situation, you were playing with your knife somewhere in the woods and something happened, you needed a knife, you really have one. So that's the SOG throwing knives, and I bought these on Midway USA because they were having a sale on them, so that they may still be on sale pretty cheap. Some of the best, not only some of the best value throwing knives I've seen, especially for the price I paid for them. I think they're under 15 bucks or something like that. But also the best all-around throwing knife slash thingy that I've seen so far. At least one of the top 2 or 3. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I really appreciate you watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident, so be prepared. Have fun. I'll see you next time.